Everybody, it's Stan. I've been doing these case studies. Somebody suggested I try to do a few of these, and this one's going to be about my sister. I just called it My Sister's Mental Health, Suicide, Schizophrenia, OCD, Depression, Institutionalized, Ordeal. Okay. Again, my disclaimer, I am not a doctor. I was just toxic for most of my life. I'll do a case study on myself next. I just try to spread information that I've worked through for 10 years now, 8, 9, 10 years. There's a lot of bad information out there. There's a lot of people that find my videos helpful, and they find me after they've been harmed or damaged by doing things that other protocols or people told them to do. I don't know all the answers, but I know basics quite well, and I get to the root of the problem, and I usually can help guide people at least out of where they're at. I don't know that I could always, bring it back to where you were before you got toxic, but I think we're all working on that. So let me move on here quickly. This might be a little longer than the last one. I could talk about my sister for 10 hours, so it's going to be hard to do this in 30 or 40 minutes or whatever this will be. So before I get into that, every video I have these comments here. Again, my goal is just to open everybody's mind to other possibilities and try to find your true root cause of what your problems are. A lot of people I've found over the years are not able to really get to the correct root cause. They'll get to a cause, but they don't get to the root of it. So you got to keep digging, digging, and digging until you get to the point where there's no way to dig anymore. You don't have any more questions of why. So that's one point. MTHFR is big. I recently read 80% of the global population may have this, and it impedes our natural ability to detox. So it's very important to address that. Important to open all your detox pathways before you do any kind of detoxing. If you have those pathways open, then natural detox may just kind of happen. Couple other comments here, you can read them. Trace mercury I found in a fish oil supplement. Mom's transfer toxicity to the baby. Firstborn mostly gets the brunt of it. IAOMT.org is a website you can go to find a dentist that knows safe amalgam removal. Again, why do you need to find one that knows how to do it safely versus not following their protocol? That's a question you have to answer yourself, I guess. So just to get into my sister's situation, she's about 2 years younger than me now, so approaching 63. A popular Mercury support group about 10 years ago said it's not uncommon when one person in the family is with Mercury issues that the other family members aren't also. The problem is they don't all know that. It often turns out that one person may realize the problem. The others may trust the system too much and think that Mercury's okay, amalgams are okay and safe. So that's sort of what the dynamic is, what we're all dealing with. Just like, friends and family, you might tell them all your symptoms and they look at you like you're crazy because they just don't understand it. They don't understand what it feels like. It's like if you don't experience it yourself, you just don't really know. So keep that in mind. Like I can see toxicity in my entire family on both sides, to be honest, but that's another story. So, and they would be surprised for me to say that. I've said it to a few, and you just see the reaction. So, in my case, I just had the kind of mind that said it's impossible for me to have all these symptoms. It's impossible for me to feel the way I do at the age I'm at. There's got to be a reason. I'm an engineer too, and maybe that's part of what drove me to keep looking. I don't know, but something inside me kept saying, look, 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 and here I am. So in number 2, I said, why would something run in a family? Like why would it be that whole family seems to be that way? So I try to logically and scientifically connect these dots all the time. So one thought is if one person is mercury toxic, it's likely because their detox system is not 100%. Okay, we can say it's genetic related. Genetic, in my opinion, may mean that it's basically passing toxicity from generation to generation. So after 2 generations pass, the person's pretty sick. after 3 generations, you can even have more sick people in the family, so to speak, because your genetics are constantly being compromised. Another example is my mom had a lot of issues. I had them too. So did my sister. My dad did too. Okay. I also see it in my external family. Like I said, there is mental illness. I believe there's been suicides in my family. Personality traits. I would say that most have not made the connection. So that's kind of the problem here. Okay. So if we all made the connection, then I wouldn't be doing these videos anymore, and a lot more people would be getting healthy. So let's get to my sister's story. I didn't make the connection to Mercury until about 20 years after she got sick. I looked back and saw ways that she could have had exposure and symptoms that coincided. Okay, I also learned from at least one Mercury support group that some people were institutionalized with mental health troubles, but someone in their family kept searching and found them to be mercury toxic from amalgams or some other exposure. Those people detoxed and they were released from the institution. So how could you be labeled by doctors, psychiatrists, whatever, as having mental health issues, and then later on you detox, you get better, and you get out? So I guess they were wrong. Think about that a little bit. My sister's problem started, and this is approximate, it's very hard to go back and know exactly when things happen because you don't really notice it. I mean, it happens subtly. You think it's just, you're having a bad day, bad mood, whatever. In reality, these people are struggling internally with being poisoned. Okay, it's horrible. So around that age, she started having issues. She was out of high school a couple of times in her senior year with very bad symptoms. Back then, we said she had like a nervous breakdown. So was Mercury a possibility? I should add right now, I forgot about this, I just added it in, that she was born with no fingers on her right hand. I would say she really didn't have much emotional or mental issues before around age 14 to 16, so I'm attributing all this to Mercury and toxins. I'm sure the abuse she took from kids and adults wanting to see the girl with no fingers was not easy. I mean, I witnessed it. Kids would come to my parents' house knocking on the door asking to see her. Adults would stare, yeah, and I had to hold back myself a lot. The interesting thing is nowadays it doesn't happen as much. Not stowaways, it should say nowadays. Sorry about that. Maybe the younger generation is more caring and more empathetic than the previous generation, which is a good thing. So looking back, we all went to the same family dentist who was quite old at the time. He was very slow working. I recall swallowing tons of whatever he used to fill our cavities. I guess I was swallowing amalgam. He took forever to drill the cavity. So from that, there's a lot of exposure potential. So my question is, what happens when you swallow amalgam? I mean, there's a lot of opinions out there. I'm just putting it out there as a thought. My sister had cavities and a root canal done. The latter, we are now seeing a lot of information on how bad root canals can be for some of us. It makes people extremely, extremely sick. And I believe there's mercury put in those root canals. So my sister, her name's Diane. I'll maybe call her by name from now on. She also had OCD type symptoms. It took her forever to complete her paper route. She had what my mom called rituals she had to do every day. She'd line up her shoes, she'd open and close a gate a certain number of times on her paper route, she'd step forward and back so many times, she'd walk a certain way, she'd wash her hands forever. As I was going through this writing, it was really coming back to me. It's been quite a while, and at the time we had no idea why. We thought it was an emotional type thing. I guess it still could be, but I do know from my Mercury experience, I had OCD type symptoms. I had this ritual kind of thing to a degree. I would count telephone poles driving down the road constantly. Then I would make patterns out of the telephone poles. And then if I would be looking at a floor with tiles, I would count tiles in certain ways, and I would make patterns in the way I would count. And the interesting thing is now, after all these years of detoxing, I don't do that anymore. I don't even have a desire to do it anymore. And I think about it back then, like, what the heck was I doing? Why was I doing that. What made me do that? And all I can say, it's a toxicity in your brain that makes you do that. So next point, where there are other people in the family that were mentally not well. I do recall one that we might call autistic today. So 45 years ago, there were very few of these issues in that generation. But then, again, I'm talking about generation to generation. How does this happen? That generation transferred to the next generation, and each generation transfers more and more symptoms and toxicity. Okay, it comes from the mom to the firstborn, and many moms that know about this will do things before getting pregnant to try to minimize what the baby feels. You can look that up in different groups. Okay. I remember reading a joke in one group. It says, if you want to detox fast, a mom should have a baby. That's not funny. It's not a joke, but it is kind of what happens when the mom dumps a lot of her toxicity to the baby. Getting back to my sister, if you notice, I'm touching on a lot of things as I'm talking here, so I'm hoping to spur some thinking in your as you're listening, and you might say, oh my God, this happened or that happened. I need to look into this or that. So there's just so much to pass along. So getting back to my sister, and I'm saying this might take 2 videos. It might be that long because it's a life story. Age 14 to now 62, almost 63. She had other symptoms at the time when she was younger, before she was institutionalized. She felt like she was out of her body. She was floating in and out of her body. She had several suicide attempts. My mom would listen while she was bathing, and she'd, all of a sudden not hear any sound, and she'd rush up to see her trying to drown herself in the tub. Mercury causes one to have suicidal thoughts. They're like a casual thought. It's like, okay, maybe I'll do that tomorrow. So when I see suicides, I always think of that. It's like, these poor people might have been toxic and really didn't even know what they were doing. Okay, very sad. She would go into rages. Her head was like total brain fog. She'd say it's like on fire, like an electrical charge feeling buzzing in her head. She would hallucinate. She'd be fearful. She wouldn't be able to talk. She couldn't think. She couldn't walk. She had spatial issues, couldn't judge distances. Stomach, digestive was a mess. One time when she was a teenager, she ran out of the house in a rage. I was home. I ran after her like maybe 3 city blocks, finally caught up with her, put a bear hug around her. And I mean, she's very strong when she's in this rage thing. And I had to literally like physically drag her all the way home while she was like fighting, and that was not easy. I thought I was going to die with a heart attack, but I got her home safe. Another time she took the family car. She didn't have a license. She just did it without thinking of the repercussions. Again, that's kind of a Mercury trait. You have these grandiose ideas and thoughts, and you don't think of the repercussions kind of thing, and you just do strange things. So notice at this point all the symptoms she had. She had physical symptoms, mental symptoms, and emotional symptoms. My question is, was she acutely poisoned at this time? I think so. One thing I did not write in here was the one day when she was really, really sick. She was in her room, in her bed, couldn't come out of bed. I went to her to, like bend down and give her a kiss kind of thing and talk to her. And she reacted like a scared cat. Like I don't know what she was seeing, but she was extremely frightened of everything. And I think I can only say it's got to be the Mercury. I was in a state like that once, and I know what that feels like. And I can say that's exactly, if you don't know what's wrong with you, you'd react scared out of your mind. Like me, I knew it was Mercury, so even though I felt like schizophrenic, I was like, okay, I know what this is. I just got to work through it. A couple hours, let it pass through, and I'll be okay. So I didn't let it get to me that way. I'll talk to more on that in my case study. So she went into a local hospital psychiatric floor a couple times. Her last time home, she was again put in the local psychiatric floor. They call it S5 here. And at that point, she never came home. After a few weeks, she was transferred to the local psychiatric hospital. When I went to see her the first time, she was totally out of it. Just not herself. They at that time drugged her up with this psychotropic drugs, which is not good if you're not really mentally ill, whatever that really is. So what happens if you give someone that's mercury poison all these drugs? Well, I went to say hello to her. She was eating. She grabbed her soup spoon. I thought, oh, she's going to give me a spoon of soup. Well, she took a spoonful and she dripped it all over my hand. That was reached out to her. I'm laughing because I didn't expect that, and it just kind of funny, like maybe she did it on purpose. I don't know. It was real hot, and she looked at me, and like her eyes were like a scared deer, like deer in the headlights type thing. She couldn't speak, which was a mercury thing. At the time and through her years there, she was diagnosed schizophrenic, depression. So I mentioned this a few seconds ago. I'll talk about it now. One time I took some detox supplements which caused a very severe redistribution symptoms for me. And I just sat there. I was messed up, and I thought, wow, this must be what being schizophrenic feels like, because I was spaced out, not myself. I was like separating my personality. I was floating. I had no emotions. I was hallucinating. And I thought, man, is this what my sister felt? And I said, thank God I knew it was happening, or I would have called for help. So I just kind of sat there in a daze and just prayed it would pass, which it did. My sister was institutionalized for about 28 years. I won't be able to recall everything, but I'm just giving you the general overview. My mom got very involved in advocating for the mentally ill. She started a local NAMI, they call it, National Alliance for the Mentally Ill. She helped tons of people get help. A lot of people call her when their kids are in distress and the system wouldn't help or didn't know how to help, but my mother would make some phone calls and the system would react. It was really kind of cool. I mean, she had a lot of, I don't like the word power, but a lot of respect in the area for being a good person, helping that way, and knowing what she was talking about too. She studied this quite well. Always trying to figure out, again, root cause, what's wrong with my sister. She was pretty close. I'll talk about it now because I'll forget about it later. My sister had a brain tumor at one point, and it was right around the what gives you epilepsy. And I did not write this in this, I should have, but my sister did have epilepsy when she was a young kid, and she supposedly grew out of it. And then later on, they find a tumor there. Okay, so my theory is it's a tumor from the mercury, because that's what your body does. It sequesters the bad stuff and kind of encases it in a tumor type situation to try to protect the body. So, anyways, so getting back on the brain tumor, she had that about 10 years ago. They treated her with radiation. It's been okay ever since. So, my sister Diane was described by the system as the 1/3 of patients who will never recover. They say a third fully recover, a third recovers with some issues, but she was the 1/3 that will never get out of the institution, is what we were told. Funny that was the case until her brain tumor. The doctors suddenly decided she could live in a home setting with a caretaker, and she was discharged from the institution. Okay, for me, I found that a little shocking. It was actually a good move in the long run, but why did they want to get her out of that hospital at that point? So anyway, she does well in her new environment. Her caretakers have been excellent. As long as Diane eats well, she's happy. I mean, I'm kind of a little joke there, but she's a good eater, loves her food. Let's see. So people always ask me, how is she doing now? It's hard to answer because she's always been very intelligent. People that knew her in school always say, oh my God, how beautiful she was and how intelligent she was. And I'll show a couple pictures in a minute. She'd remember anybody from the past, tells details of what she did with them, which is surprising because she had electric shock treatments also. A cousin doctor of mine referred to the shock treatments as frying her brain, along with all the other drugs she's been on. So he's amazed she's even anywhere near functional. It's like 40 years of experimentation on her, which just makes me very, very, very sad, because the system doesn't know what they're doing. I mean, I'm sick my whole life, and people like you listening, and you know the system is not aware of what's going on for whatever the reasons are. I won't even get into that. And many people, like my sister, live a whole life like this, and that is absolutely so horribly wrong, horribly wrong. Anyways, she cannot function on her own. She needs to be reminded to do basic things we do every day. She can't walk easily on the ground. It seems to move for her. She doesn't feel steady on her feet. She stutters when she talks. She goes to classes every day. She knows everyone. People love her. When she was at the institution, she would defend herself from staff. She seemed to know which were not nice. She had a good intuition that way. They all knew to stay clear of Diane. That aspect makes me feel horrible again, because to think she had to defend herself all alone there, and I wasn't able to be there to help her. Her family wasn't. Why is it that way? And maybe it's getting better now. I hope it is. So on the brain, one thing about how she feels. She says her head feels better than 20 to 30 years ago. How long does it take for the brain to detox? In a Mercury group, I heard 25 years at one point. So again, her head feeling better tends to correlate with Mercury detox in the brain. She lost all her teeth early on, okay, maybe when she was in her 30s. Again, that's a Mercury symptom. My dad's case study, I talked about him losing all his teeth. So he and she were a lot alike, so maybe why she lost her teeth. Me, thank God I still got my teeth, okay? Here's the question. If some people reverse mental health issues with detox and were discharged from institutions, were they really mentally ill? It's the same scenario with all illness and disease. Many reverse disease and symptoms of illness with detoxing. So how can that possibly happen? What do we do about this now? Okay, what can I do to help my sister at this point? I'll be honest, I don't know. She's extremely, extremely far gone, for lack of a better word. Here's a picture of my sister when she was a senior in high school. That's her senior picture. And this is a picture of her when I took her out recently. Holidays, I take her out. She loves Burger King. Sorry, I don't recommend Burger King food, but she loves it. I'm not going to take that away from her. Anyway, that's my sister. Okay, for now, I guess that's the end. Thanks for listening. Please share the information, and try to get people to subscribe. Leave a comment, leave a like. I really appreciate y'all listening. If you've listened this long, it's been 23 minutes. I thought it would be longer, but I really can't talk about this too much. I'm kind of losing it now. So, anyways, I pray to God the world changes with this stuff. It is changing. I can see it even in the last few years, just the ability to speak about it more truthfully. We're not getting slammed. We're not getting accounts shut off, all that kind of stuff. So something good is happening. I just hope it happens a lot quicker. There is some healing out there, frequency-related healing, that I believe could even make my sister completely well again. And, man, that would be something. So, okay, take care. Have a good day. Bye.